There are athletes who arrive with quiet promise, and then there are those whose presence shakes the court the moment they step onto it. Melissa Vargas was never the kind to sneak into greatness. She arrived like a lightning strike, bold, unmistakable, impossible to ignore. With her towering frame, thundering spike, and ice-cold composure, she has become one of the most feared and admired volleyball players on earth. But while her highlight reels speak volumes, it's the story behind her rise, the grit, the exile, the return, that makes her legend feel less like luck and more like destiny forged by sheer will. Born on October 16, 1999, in Cienfuegos, Cuba, Melissa Vargas grew up in a country where sports were more than games. They were identity, opportunity, and often, escape. From the age of 6, a volleyball became an extension of her hand. She was barely a teenager when coaches began calling her a prodigy, and by the time she was 13, she had already earned her place on the Cuban national team. That kind of early stardom could have easily crumbled a young athlete, but Melissa thrived. She played with a fearlessness that stunned seasoned professionals. At 14, she was turning heads at international tournaments. By 15, she was collecting awards: Best Opposite, Best Scorer, Best Attacker. Cuba believed they had found the future of their sport. But the road to greatness is rarely smooth. In 2016, while playing professionally in the Czech Republic, Vargas suffered a serious shoulder injury, one that threatened not only her season but her career. She returned to Cuba for treatment, only to find herself caught in the punishing grip of bureaucracy and politics. The Cuban Volleyball Federation handed her a 4-year ban from international play, citing undisciplined behavior. That phrase, vague and politically loaded, said less about Melissa and more about a system uncomfortable with independence. But where some athletes might have withered, Melissa made a life-altering decision. She chose freedom over fear. And that decision would reshape everything. Stripped of her right to represent her home country, Vargas sought refuge overseas. She landed in Switzerland with Volleyball Zurich, not just as a player, but as an asylum seeker. It was a low point and a turning point. Far from home, without a national team to call her own, Vargas could have faded quietly into club volleyball anonymity. Instead, she rebuilt herself. Not just physically, though the shoulder recovery was grueling, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Her hunger sharpened. Her game evolved. She became stronger, faster, more lethal. The world had cast her out, and she answered by becoming undeniable. Her next chapter began in Turkey, where she joined Fenerbahce, one of the country's most storied volleyball clubs. There, Vargas didn't just thrive, she transformed. She turned her powerful serve into a weapon of mythic proportions, routinely clocking speeds that broke records and broke spirits. She won MVP honors. She led her team to championship after championship. She was no longer the Cuban prodigy lost to exile. She was now something bigger, a global force, a name whispered in fear by blockers and defenders on every continent. But even as she collected titles and trophies, a question lingered: where did she belong? She wasn't representing Cuba. Her talents had no Olympic stage. And then came another life-altering decision. In 2021, after years of residency in Turkey, Melissa Vargas officially gained Turkish citizenship. She embraced a new home, a new flag, a new chapter. The decision was met with both celebration and skepticism. Some purists questioned the shift in nationality. Others accused her of betraying her roots. But Melissa wasn't chasing approval. She was chasing purpose. She had waited long enough. In 2023, everything changed. That summer, after 6 years away from international competition, Melissa Vargas donned the Turkish national team jersey and stepped into two of the sport's most demanding tournaments, the FIV Volleyball Nations League and the European Championships. What followed was nothing short of dominance. In Arlington, she led Turkey to their first ever VNL gold medal and was named tournament MVP. Just weeks later, in the Eurovolley final, she dropped an astonishing 41 points, leading Turkey to another historic gold. Again, she was named MVP. It was as if all the years of waiting, of injury, of political exile, had boiled into this perfect storm of focus and fury. Vargas didn't just play well, she overwhelmed. Opponents had no answers. Her serves cut through air like missiles. Her spikes left defenders frozen. Commentators ran out of superlatives. And yet, even amid the praise, Melissa remained grounded. She knew where she had been. She knew what it took to get there. And she wasn't done yet. By the end of 2023, she was named the best volleyball player in the world, beating out stars from the US, Brazil, Italy, and beyond. It was the crowning moment of a journey that had seen more valleys than most athletes could bear. And yet, Vargas had not only survived, she had risen. At the 2024 Paris Olympics, she continued to make history. In her Olympic debut, she became the first Cuban-born player to score over 30 points in a single match. Again, her name was in the headlines. Again, she carried her team. But this time, there was more at stake than medals. Melissa Vargas wasn't just representing Turkey. She was representing everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. Everyone who'd been forced to start over. Everyone who had ever been counted out and came back sharper, stronger, louder. But the beauty of Melissa Vargas isn't just in her performance. It's in her presence. She plays with fury but never loses her grace. Her game is ruthless, but her spirit is deeply human. Off the court, she laughs easily. She talks openly about her journey, about her faith, about her family. She has a tattoo of a worn-out shoe next to a newer one, a quiet reminder of where she started and how far she's come. She shares photos of her dogs, videos of her training, and songs that get her through the grind. Despite all the pressure, all the scrutiny, she remains unapologetically herself. That may be her greatest gift. In a sport and a world that often demands assimilation, Melissa Vargas insists on authenticity. She didn't switch countries for convenience. She did it for survival. She didn't mute her pain. She turned it into power. And now, standing at the peak of her career, she represents more than just a volleyball powerhouse. She is a symbol of perseverance, reinvention, and the radical belief that your future doesn't have to be limited by your past. She has now won titles in multiple countries. She has taken the Turkish league by storm, shattered records in China, dominated in Europe, and earned global recognition. She's rewritten what it means to be a volleyball opposite spiker, combining brute strength with tactical intelligence. Coaches and analysts speak of her in the same breath as the sport's all-time greats, and she's still only in her mid-20s. But even as the medals pile up, Melissa plays like she's still proving something. Maybe she is. Maybe that's what fuels her, the memory of being told she couldn't play, that she didn't belong, that her voice didn't matter. But every serve, every spike, every win says otherwise. She belongs. She matters. And she's not finished yet. The next chapters, Olympics, more world championships, more seasons in elite leagues, are still unwritten. But wherever she goes, one thing is clear. Melissa Vargas has changed the game. Not just how it's played, but how it's seen. She's shown that greatness doesn't require a straight path. That you can carry two homes in one heart. That you can be exiled and still rise. That you can be broken and still beautiful. So if her story moved you, if her resilience lit a fire somewhere inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this tribute. Share it with someone who needs to remember that starting over doesn't mean starting from scratch. Subscribe to hear more stories like this. Stories about defiance, redemption, and athletes who don't just play the game, but transform it. Because Melissa Vargas isn't just a champion. She's a revolution in motion.